Hello my friends, welcome back to the channel. In this tutorial, I'm going to be teaching you how to make this beautiful login and register page. So you can see we have this beautiful login and register page with a good 3D tilt effect. It's like it's following your mouse. Wherever you hover it, it's going to follow it. And also we have the register side, whereby if you click on register, we have this new input with full name. If you go back to login, we only have email address and password, but if we click on register, you can see we have one more input. Yeah, that's it. I'm going to teach you how to be making this cool page using Tailwind, HTML, and a little bit of JavaScript. So for you to follow along, remember to download the starter files. Check on the description section down below, and you're going to find a link to my GitHub account. Download the source code, and you can follow along with me, and also you can just play with the code if you like it, if you don't want to write code from scratch. And also remember to like this video, share it, and subscribe, and also enable the notification bell so that when I upload a new video, you'll be the first one to be notified. So as you can see, I have my HTML boilerplate on the screen. I also have my title, Crystal Glass Form UI, and also I have the link tag that links to my style sheet. Here is my style.css file, and you can see I have some code in it. This code, we're going to be using it also in our project. And you might be wondering, why do we need custom CSS if we are using Tailwind CSS? So the short answer is Tailwind handles basic visual styling, but complex UI effects still require custom CSS. So Tailwind is not meant to replace all CSS. It's meant to reduce repetitive CSS. And for advanced UIs like Glassmorphism, Neumorphisms, writing some CSS is normal, and also it's so expected sometimes. So when building stunning UIs, the best approach is Tailwind for layout and basic styling, and then custom CSS for advanced animations, 3D effects, shadows, textures, and interactions. So with that, we can start writing our code immediately and see what you're going to come up with. So I'm going to collapse the head section, and I'm going to be working inside my body section. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so that you can see clearly. And then inside the body, I'm going to create two divs. So I'll create the first div, and then I'll create another. These divs are the ones we're going to be using for background animations. You're going to see shortly what you're going to do. So first, let's style off our first div. But before we style our first div, let me show you something. I'll be using autosave feature in Visual Studio Code. So if you don't have that one activated, just head over to File and then scroll down until you say autosave, and then you can see mine is already checked. That means I've enabled that feature. And also I'll be using Live Server so that I won't have to refresh manually all the time. So if you don't have Live Server, just type Live Server, and you can see here it is. Install the extension and we'll be good to go. So let's start by styling our containers, which we'll be using for animations. So the first one, I'm going to give it a class, and I'm going to say absolute, and then I'm going to say top, and then -10. Next, I'm going to say width should be 64, and then I'm going to say height also should be 64. And then we're going to say bg-purple -600. And then I'm going to say rounded -full, and then mix blend screen. And then I'm going to say filter, and then blur and then we're going to use 100 pixels. And then next we'll say opacity, and we are going to say 40. And then next we're going to say animate -pulse. So if you look at our CSS files, we have this animation created. So don't worry, where is that animation coming from? And then the next div, we're going to give it a class also and say absolute also. And we're going to say bottom -10. And we're going to say right -10, w-80, and then we're going to say h-80, bg-blue-600. If you don't know about CSS, Tailwind CSS, just comment down below asking for a full tutorial and I will do it. Maybe I'll do a crash course, one that you're going to catch up really fast. So if we continue, I'm going to say rounded dash full and then mix dash blend dash screen. And then I'm going to say filter again, blur. And then we're going to say 100 pixels. And then opacity will also be 40. So 40. And then animate dash pulse. So I know you're wondering what we have right now. So let us open with live server and see what we will get. So the page opened in my other monitor, and right now this is what we have. You can see in the background we have these beautiful animations, and that's what we just created a few minutes ago. So the animations, you can find them in the CSS files, and then we're just calling the name of that class and using it in our website. So if we continue, this is what we're going to do next. So right now you can't see the styles well because of the color of our page. So let's work on our body and give it a better background color so that we can see our animations well. So first we're going to give it a class, and then we're going to start with bg slet dash 900. And if we go back to our page, this is what we have right now. So you can see everything is being seen well. The next thing we can do is continue styling our body tag. So next I can say min dash h dash screen. So min height should be the height of the screen. And then next I'm going to say flex, and then items dash center, and then justify dash center. And then next I can say p dash 4, which stands for padding 4, and then overflow dash hidden. And then I'm going to give it relative. Remember, the children have position absolute, so the parent must have relative. And if we continue, we have animated, and then dash bg, and then we can say text dash white. So if we go back to our site again, you can see this is what we have, and it looks really nice. So I was thinking maybe I should split the screen and see what we're going to get. So let's see what we will get. I'm going to move my code this way, and then I'm going to move my page on the right side. So yeah, we can have it that way for now. And then the next thing we can do, let me move it a little bit this way. The next thing we can do is we can work on another div. So let's create another div, and then open, and then we're going to give it a class, and then we're going to also give it an ID. So first let's give it an ID which we're going to be targeting in JavaScript. So ID equals, let's say, card. That sounds much better. And then inside our class we can start applying our styles. So I'm going to say tilt dash card, and then w dash full, and then max dash w dash, then I'm going to use brackets, and I'm going to say for 20 pixels, and then I'm going to say transition dash transform, and then I'll say duration dash 100, and then is dash out. Nice. And inside the div, this is what we're going to do. We're going to create again another div. So we're going to create a div, and then we're going to give it a class. So this is actually how I always work. I just create some divs and style them immediately when I'm working with Tailwind CSS. You don't have to create the div and then put all the elements that are needed inside. You can just style as you keep going. So you can see I create a div and style it immediately so that we don't have to write everything we need, then come back and start styling everything. So I think this one for me is more productive. So we're going to say glass dash card, and then rounded dash 3XL, and then P dash 8, and you can see we have this div that's rounded. So let's continue seeing what's going to happen. So we have P dash 8, and then you can say relative, then overflow dash hidden, and then lastly you can say Z dash 10, that stands for Z index. And then inside that div we're going to have another div, and I'm going to give it a class also. So I can say class, and then I'm going to say absolute, and then negative top 20 dash 20, sorry, and then negative left dash 20 also, and then W, which stands for width, should be 40, and then height also should be 40, and then BG dash white, and then opacity, I'm going to give it 10, and then I'm going to give it blur, and I'm going to say 3XL, and then next I'm going to have rounded dash full, and then pointer dash events dash none. So it should be events, not event. Events. So this is what we still have right now, but we can continue and see how it's going to look. Now underneath this div, the one that we created, this div that we created, underneath it we're going to have another div. So I'm going to say div, and then I'm going to open the div, but first I'm going to style the div. So I'm going to say flex, then justify dash center, and then I'm going to say MB dash 8, and then relative, and then Z dash 20. Inside that div, I'm going to have another div. Today we're going to be working with a lot of divs, so get used to it. In fact, in industry production, that's what we'll be doing all the time. You'll be using a lot of divs to group your code the way you want it to be. So let's create another div, and then give it a class also, and then we're going to say relative, and we're going to say BG dash black, and then we're going to say / and then 30. So that's opacity, I think, of 30. And then we're going to say rounded dash full, and then P dash 1, and then flex, and then W dash 64, not 74, 64, and then H, not W, H should be 12. So you can see this is what we have right now. This is actually going to be for the buttons to log in and register. So we have H, which is 12, and then we have shadow dash inner, not in the inner, and then we have border, and then we have border dash white with 5. Now this is what we have. You can see we have a border around our container, and that looks very nice. So inside that div again, we're going to open it, and inside the div, this is what we're going to do. We create another div with an ID of slider. So not class, but ID is slider, and then we can also have a class, and we're going to say absolute, and then we're going to say top dash 1, and then we're going to say left dash 1, and then W dash 64, not 64, I'm sorry. We have w dash. We're going to open curly brackets, and then you're going to say calc, and then open parentheses, and then say 50% negative, not negative, minus 4 pixels. It's not negative, it's minus 4 pixels. And then h dash, we're also going to do the same thing, calc, open parentheses, then 100% minus 8px. Nice. And then we're going to have bg dash white /10. And then next what we're going to have is rounded dash full, and then shadow dash lg, and then border dash white. I made a mistake here. I actually was writing the other styles inside the curly bracket, so I'm going to rectify that shortly. So I'm going to cut all this cut, and then I'll paste them here. Then I also cut this closing square bracket and put it right there. And then we can continue with our styles. So border dash white, and then forward slash, and then 10, and then transition. You can say dash all, and then duration. You can say dash 30, and then is dash in dash out. And you can see this is what we have right now. It looks nice. Inside the div, we're going to have 2 tabs. Not 2 tabs, 2 buttons. So underneath the div we just styled, we're going to have 2 buttons. So we can say button, and then we can give it a name of login, and then the other one will be register. So let's create another button and say register. And then this one is going to be login. And if we look at our site, this is what we have. We have 2 buttons, and they look weird, but we're going to be styling them right now. Let's start with the first button. We're going to give it a class, and we're going to say width dash, we're going to say half, and then z dash 10. And then the next thing we're going to give is going to be text dash sm, which is small, and then font dash medium, and then tracking dash wide. So tracking dash wide, and then transition dash colors, and then duration we're going to have dash 300. And then lastly, we're going to have text dash white. And then we're going to have an ID of tab login. So let's give it an ID. I'm going to say ID tab dash login. So we're going to use the ID to target it in JavaScript. And then the other button also we can just do the same things. So we're going to give it a class, then give it a width of, let's say, a half, and then we're going to say z-10, then text dash sm, then font dash medium, and then again tracking dash wide, and then transition dash colors, then duration dash 300, and then text dash white. No, let's give this text dash gray. Text dash gray dash 400, and then we can have hover, and we can say text dash white, and then we can have an ID which you're going to use to target it with JavaScript, and you can say tab dash register. Nice. So this is what we have right now. You can see if I hover on this one, the color changes and it looks very nice. So let's continue working on our project. So we have this div that we created, then we created another div, then we created another div with 2 buttons inside. Let me maximize my window so that you can see well. We have this div. So if you click on the opening tag, it's going to show you where that div has its closing tag. So I'm going to click on the opening tag and you can see this is where we're closing the tag. So I want you to go underneath that div, and then we're going to create another div and we're going to open it. But first, as usual, we're going to style. So we're going to give it a class and we're going to say text-center, then MB-8. So MB stands for margin bottom. And then inside that div, we're going to have an H1. And inside the opening tag, we're going to have an ID, and it's going to say title. And then next, you can give it a class and do our styling. So you can say text-3, text-3 Excel, and then font-bold, then bg-clip-text, and then text-transparent. I hope I'm typing everything well. And then you can have bg-gradient, and then -2-r, and then we can have from-white, via-purple, and then -100, and then you can say 2-gray-300, and then you can have a drop shadow. So you can say drop shadow -sm, and then we can have the text inside which says welcome back. Let's look at what we have. Nice, this is what we have. We have the welcome back text. So let's continue. So underneath the H1, we can have a paragraph tag with the text enter your credentials to access your account. So here is the text. We have it already. And then we can also style the text. So first we give it an ID, which you can say subtitle. And then you can have a class. And you can say text-slate. Slate is actually the background we are using. So slate-400. And then we have text-sm, then mt-2. So text-small, and then margin top, we're going to have 2. That's nice. And then underneath this div, the one we created, I'm going to maximize my screen again. Underneath this div, just click on the opening tag. It's going to show you where the closing tag is. We're going to create our form. So come down and then type form, correct. And we don't need action right now. We always use action when dealing with PHP or Django. So if you want tutorials on PHP or Django, just comment down below and I'll also work on them. So we're going to give it a class and we're going to say space -y-5. So we're giving it space vertically and we're giving it 5, which is very much okay. So let's continue. Let's work on a div that will be inside our form. So inside that div, on the opening tag, we're going to have an ID and we're going to say name-container, and then we're going to say class, we're going to say hidden, and then opacity -0, and then transform negative translate -y-4, and then transition dash all, and then duration, we're going to say 300. Nice. So inside that div, we're going to have an SVG, but before we have the SVG first, we're going to have another div inside that div. So let's create the div. I'm going to say div and then open it. And then in the opening tag, I'm going to have a class. I'm going to say new dash input. So new stands for neumorphism. If you open our style.css, you're going to find that class. And then next, we're going to say rounded dash 2xl, and then flex, and then items dash center, and then px dash 4, and then py dash 3, and then group. Nice. So if you look at it, we still don't see anything, but as we continue, you're slowly going to see some things. So I'm going to copy some SVG and paste it in here. If you download this source code from my GitHub account, you can just copy. You can just copy also and paste. So here is my SVG. And if we look at our site right now, we still see nothing. But don't worry about that. So underneath the SVG, we're going to have an input. So we can say input, and we're going to have type text. So this will be the input for our name. And we're going to give it a placeholder of full. Let me use caps, full, and then name. Nice. And then we're going to give it a class and say bg-transparent. And then next we're going to say border dash none, and then outline dash none, and then text dash sm, and then ml dash 3 w dash full, and then we're going to have text dash white, then placeholder. We're going to say dash select dash 500. Nice. So right now you can't see anything because we have this class hidden, but we're going to continue working on it and you're going to see it come to life. You'll see everything we want to see. So underneath this div inside our form, we're going to have another div. So I'm going to add some empty lines so that we don't have the divs touching each other. And also it's going to be easy for us to see. And we're going to create another div. And we're going to give the div a class. And we're going to say new dash input. Dash input. And then rounded dash 2xl. And then flex. And then items dash center. Then px dash 4. Then py dash 3. And then group. And also this one, I'm going to copy. I'm going to copy an SVG. And then I'm going to paste it in here. So here's my SVG. Great. And then underneath the SVG also, I'm going to have an input again. And it's going to be type email. And then I'm going to have placeholder. And you can say email address. And then after that, we're going to have our class. And we're going to say bg-transparent. And then next you can say border dash none. And then outline dash none. Text dash sm ml dash 3. And then w dash full. And then next you can have text dash white. And then you can have placeholder dash select dash 500. So underneath this div, we're going again to have another div. I'll create the div. And then I'm going to open the div. But before I add some content inside the div, as you know, I first style the div. So I can say class, and then I can say new dash input, and then I'm going to say rounded dash 2xl, and then flex, and then items dash center px dash 4, and then I'm going to say py dash 3, and then group. So you might be wondering why you are not seeing anything. The first time we didn't see anything because we had a class of hidden. That was because we wanted, when we click on register, we're going to use JavaScript to remove the class hidden, and then we're going to see some things. And that's why at first you did not see the first container. So as we continue, we're going to have some text inside this div. So I'm going to copy an SVG and paste it in here. After pasting in the SVG, so the SVGs are these small icons. You might be wondering where are the SVGs. It's just these small icons. And you can see we have the other one in the other input. So let's create the password input also. So we're going to say input, and then type should be password. And then we're going to have placeholder of password. So I'll just refresh this. Nice. And then we're going to have a class. We're going to say bg-transparent, and you can see it disappears. The color disappears, and then we have border-none. And then after that, we're going to have outline-none also. And then we're going to have text-smml-3. And then we're going to have text-white. And then next, we're going to have placeholder /select-500. So you can see we have our password input, and we also have our email input. So if I say, let me say tevin@gmail.com, and then password, I'll say tevin1234. Nice. So everything looks good, but one thing we're missing right now is a login button. So next, we're going to first work on a small container, which is going to contain the forgot password question. So underneath that div again, we're going to create another div, and we're going to have also an ID. So let's say ID. ID, we say forgot. Yes. And then next you can have a class, and you can say flex, and then justify. We're going to use end. And then we can have an anchor tag, which will not redirect to any page. So you can say a, and then give it a hash sign. And then inside it, you can say forgot password, and then use a question mark. So here it is. And then let's style this text. So we can say class, and then inside the class, you can say text-excess, so extra small, and then text-purple-300. Nice. And then next you can have hover. When someone hovers on the text, we want text-white. So I forgot to use a dash. So right now, if we hover on our text, I made a mistake somewhere. I forgot to type T. So if we hover on it, why am I making mistakes? If we hover on it right now, you can see it becomes white. So just a few more things. And then we can say transition, we can say dash colors. So you see right now we have a smooth transition. Now let's have a login button. So underneath that div, we're going to have our button. And then we're going to say log in. Here is our button. So let's style it. We're going to say type, we're going to say button. Then we can have a class, and then we can say new dash new dash button. So if we look at it, this is what we have right now. And then if we continue, we can say width dash full. Then we can say rounded dash 2XL. Then font dash semi-bold. And then we can have text dash white. And then we can have tracking dash wide, and then we can have hoversted. So we can say bg dash white, then /5, then active. So when someone clicks on it, we're going to say scale, then dash 95, and then transition. We're going to say dash all. So if we click on it, you can see some changes and it scales, and this is what we have right now. This is how it looks. So let's continue and we'll see what we're going to come up with when we finish everything. So underneath the form, I'm going to have another container, and I'll open it, and inside it we're going to have a few buttons with SVGs. I'm just going to copy paste, and then we can continue. So we can say class, and you can say margin top -8, and then inside the div I'm going to create another div, and then I'm going to say class, I'm going to say flex, and then items -center gap -4, and then mb -4. Nice. So inside that div we're going to have 2 divs and 1 span. So the first div, we're going to style it. Let's see what we're going to get. We're going to say h-px, and then we're going to flex -1, and then bg gradient 2-r, and then we're going to say from transparent, and then we're going to say via should be gray -600, and then we're going to say 2-transparent. So you can see we have this small line here which looks very nice. It's going to be our separator, and then underneath that div actually is going to be empty. Underneath that div we're going to have a span. We can say or continue with. So and then we're going to have a few social media icons, and then we're going to say class. In this span we're going to say text -xs, text -gray -500, and then we're going to say uppercase, and then we're going to say tracking -widest, and then after that we're going to have a div underneath that span. So open a div. This div also is going to be empty, and give it a class. I'm going to say h-px, then flex -1, bg gradient -2-r, and then from transparent, and then we can say via should be -gray -600, and then 2-transparent. So this is what we have. I think I made a mistake somewhere because we need to have another line like this one somewhere here. So I'll just check right now and see where I made the mistake. So it should be gradient, not gradient, gradient. And there it is. You can see we have these 2 beautiful lines separating. Then after that we have another container. So underneath that div we're going to add a few lines, and then I'm going to create a div and then open it. I'm going to have flex, and then I'm going to say gap -4, and then first I'm going to say justify -center. Nice. After doing that we're going to have a few buttons inside that container. So I'm just going to copy them because these are actually carrying SVGs. Just copy them also from the file you downloaded from my GitHub account. So this is what we've come up with right now, and it looks very nice. So next we're going to be working on JavaScript so that we can make our site interactive. You can see right now we can't see our register section, but if we add JavaScript, it's going to look good. And you can see we have these animations in the background, and we have some noise in our glass, which looks really nice. So you can see this is a very good beginner project. It's going to help you grow while doing this. So let's continue. I'm going to maximize my Visual Studio Code editor, and then I'm going to say script down here, and then I'm going to give a source, and I'm going to say let's say app.js, and then we're going to create the file app.js, and then from now on we'll be working on our app.js. Nice. So we're going to select some cards, the card we were using, and then we're going to see what we'll come up with. So I'm going to say const card equals document. I've been working on React for a long time. I forgot about document.getElement by ID. Get element by ID, and then I'm going to say card, and then I'm just going to copy this a couple of times. So I'll just hold Shift, Alt, and then down arrow keys. I'm going to do it 7 times. No, I'm going to do it 8 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Nice. So I'm going to say, oh, in fact, I named this cat instead of card. So I'm going to change this text and call it name container. And this side, I'm also going to say name-container. So I'm just going to do this really fast, and then I'll see you when I finish doing it. Great. So you can see I've finished changing everything, and now we can continue with JavaScript. So the mistake I made is I put a tab in front of this. So I'm going just to bring it all back, and that's it. So first let's start with tab switching logic, and this is what we're going to have. So I'm going to create a function. I'm going to say function switch, and you can say tab, and then I'm going to pass in the tab. So when we click on the buttons, we're going to have some UI changes, and then we're going to have form content change. So this is what we're going to do. So since this is JavaScript, I won't be explaining so much. What I needed to explain was Tailwind CSS. For JavaScript, I'll be moving a little bit fast. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to say tab. Great, so right now we are done with JavaScript. I've applied the 3D tilt effect, and also I've been working on the UI changes and tab switching. So if we go back to our site right now, you can see it's responsive, it's following our mouse. And also if we click on register, you see something happens. So you see register, something good happens. That's nice. So that's been it for this tutorial. I'm Clyde Sparks from Clyde Sparks Code System. If you want any tutorial, if you have anything you'd like me to cover, just comment down below and I'll be sure to respond to you and work on whatever you want. And also remember to like, share and subscribe so that you will be ready every time I drop a new tutorial. You'll be ready to find it and you'll be the first to be notified. See you in the next tutorial.